welcome back to DocTalks, where I Talk. Keep it simple for you. Today we're going to be continuing with our character creation, and we're going to get into spell casting and look at what other level 1 things we've got. Burning Bird Friend is in my chat. I have to give her a rundown of what we've done already, which is fine. We'll bring that up in a second. But just to cover up some other things, I do want to thank Burning Bird Friend, though. I can fix real quiet, believe it or not. I want to thank our Burning Bird Friend, because Burning Bird Friend really, really helped us. She pointed out some stuff from the last stream, and it sorted us out a little bit. And so I'm super happy about that. Yes. I like you to also say hi to Ryder. He's my new gingerbread friend. And also thanks to the Social Contract Pod for giving me the idea of a friend on my stream. It's awesome. Hi, Wednesday. I think I fixed it. I hope. Can you guys hear me better while I'm playing with my soundboard here? Still really quiet. Is that better? Because if that's better, then it's this. And I can fix that. I can always fix that. Okay. I fixed it. It's how I roll. So, let's get going. I'll show you what I did. I actually cleaned up the sheet a little bit, so I'm kind of proud of this. So last time, what you missed, I think, Burning Bird Friend, is that we started creating a bard sailor. We filled in some stuff. I did human variant just to do a few things. So we have everything that we need to role play or even play the character a little bit to start off with. We are missing a few things. What we're really missing is the bard stuff, right? So I wrote out the observant. You will see over here where it's the observant feat. I will highlight, and hopefully that will highlight. It will highlight. Our observant feat. The reason is because as I go on, as my character goes on, I need to be able to explain to people like why my observant feat gives me the wisdom and other things that are happening. So listen, I've learned a lot from the Discord family that I'm part of, which is the Folly Forum. I love it there, and I've learned so much, and one of the things that I would have never thought of doing is putting closed caption on, and then I learned it, so here we are. I'm glad that you like it. We're going to, again, I did my observant feat, right? Because later on, when somebody's like, well, how is your wisdom or intellect so high? What is this lip reading? Where do you get that from? Or even the passive investigation, which normally doesn't exist, but we put it on our sheet because it's actually part of this. So we're good. I just wanted to clean that up a little bit. Also, to show you guys, flip to the second page here. I wrote out everything that I have in the section where I keep it, which is the additional features and trait normally. And then I also gave myself my scroll cases, because those scroll cases come with our scholar pack, I think is the one we took. Yeah. And I set up spots for my scroll cases because I want to stay organized. It's not necessarily like OCD organized, like I need to know where everything is. But it's more that I need to be able to see where I'm carrying things for my role-playing stuff. Again, remember, role-playing. All right, so we're going to go back to page 53 of our player's handbook. I know that bards have spells, but we don't know. But we don't have to know anything to figure out how many spells here, which is good on page 53. Let me flip to our spell page, actually. Our spell page here, our class is Bard. I got to come up with a better setup for my mic and stuff. I'm a Bard. I know that my spellcasting ability is Charisma. And we got to figure out some other stuff here. But let's read through this really quick. The cool part about it is we don't need to know any math. So in a lot of things you get your level of plus this, your modifier is how many spells you know. For Bard, it just tells us straight that we have spells. So we have 4 spells that we know, 2 cantrips, and we have 2 spell slots. So that makes it real simple for us. Cantrips are spell-like things, but they're not spells. The reason that's important, and the reason I'm telling everybody here, is because cantrips, if they're bonus action, could be cast with another spell, but I can't do 2 cantrips or 2 spells, if that makes sense. I think you could do 2 cantrips, actually, now that I said that out loud. It's in the player's handbook. I'd have to look it up. It's not that important. Those are rules lawyer things. However, the reason that you can't do 2 spells is because it would make you too powerful. And so we have to remember we have an economy, so we have to stay in that. Everybody's like, I hate math. My degree is mechanical engineering. I love math. So I also am reading this on 53, and I can only change 1 spell per level. That means every time I level up, I can change out 1 spell. This is important because it means I'm pretty stuck. Now remember, when we started building our character, I wanted a guy whose voice hurt people. So I just want to be very careful that I maintain that for me because I'm a role-playing guy. So I'm not looking at stuff like, oh, it's going to be so awesome. So let's do a couple of these really quick. Spell save DC for every class that casts spells all the same. And that's going to be 8 plus my proficiency, which is 2 at this level. And then my charisma modifier, so it's 3. So I have my spell save DC is 13. What does that mean? That means if I cast a spell and it says they have to make like a dexterity or a wisdom saving throw, they have to make it at a DC 13, meaning they have to make it at 13 or higher. Remember the old adage, if you ever forget this, is which if it meets, it beats. It has to meet that number or go higher. And then over here, my spell attack bonus, for everybody, it's going to be your proficiency plus your modifier. So 2 plus 3 for us is 5. That is anytime I roll a d20 to attack with a spell, I'm adding that modifier to my spell. It's that simple. So I get 2 cantrips. So obviously, I'm taking the bardiest of bard spells, Vicious Mockery. The reason is because my personal character, and if I knew how to spell, I would have had Vicious right, that I'm creating here has a whisper thing. He has to whisper. He has to talk to people like this. Because if he talks too loud, he hurts them. That's where his power comes from. So in my head, every time he does Vicious Mockery, it's not the insult, it's the voice. It could be, for him, easily just him looking at somebody and saying in a normal voice, what did you say? And I can cast my Vicious Mockery that way. I love that aspect, so of course I'm doing this. My voice causes damage. It's just what it is. And then, of course, Message. Message is a neat spell, no matter what you're doing. But remember, I have a problem with my voice, so I want to talk to people. This allows me to keep a copper wire around my finger, point my finger, and I can talk to that person in a whisper, and they can hear me in their head. Make sure everybody can hear me. All right, first level spells. Since I can't take spells higher than the level that I have the ability to have, all 4 of the spells that I got today are going to be in level 1 spells. So the total number of spells I've got is 4. And the number of spell slots, it says expended. So I'm not going to have anything there, but I know I have 2. And if I do a paper chart, I will do this. Because I'm seeing out of 2. Making sure that I know that I have my 2. It's not important until it comes down to economy, not breaking the game. But even if you forget these little things, it's fine. So the first thing I'm going to take here, I'm going to do Charm Person. I think that my voice isn't all damaging. I just think my voice has power, right? So my first level here is going to be Charm Person. This is one of those spells. It has somatic components, and I can roleplay me using my fingers to do little sigils in the air. But I can charm somebody I see in range of the spell. I see this as talking to somebody again in my regular voice, being kind, like, hey friend, how have you been? You know, they hear that little echo, hey friend, how have you been? If you've ever seen the Umbrella Corporation, oh, thank you. I'm being hosted by Phoenix. I'm so happy. If you ever see the Umbrella Academy, I read the comics, so but they have this too, which is the lady who says, I heard a rumor about you, and then it would come true when she said it. Kind of like that same thing, but this is charming people. As I'm looking through my list here, I know it is really a good show too. Did really well compared to the comic book too, which I'm very happy about. I'm gonna take Tasha's Hideous Laughter. Sorry about this. I have my keyboard funny. Why? So in the spell, it talks about, the components of this, right? But I want this to be, for me, my laughter being contagious. So it has some somatic components again. But I could talk to my DM about the material components of this. I want it to be me just laughing and that person catching on to the laughing. I'm pretty sure I know my DM, Mike, would allow me to do it and just use spell focus, so I don't need the actual components. But since it's such a neat aspect, talking to my DM is worth it. If I have to do material components, I have to. Some DMs are like that, and it's fine. In fact, if you watch Sam play on Critical Role, or I'm sorry, not Sam, Liam play on Critical Role, he does that. He wants to do that. He didn't want to spell focus. And I thought it was pretty unique and neat. Thunderwave, yes, absolutely. I'm taking Thunderwave. This is me yelling. My character yells and he casts a Thunderwave. And again, it's verbal and somatic, but I love that about this. And I'm going to go back. It's all in alphabetical order, but I'm going to go ahead and take Dissonant Whispers. I know, he's so cute. I put on here I want to take Dissonant Whispers because of things. I think to me this is me singing in a whisper, that only one creature that I could see can actually hear it. What resources would you recommend for learning more about spells? Creative ways to use them? So Phoenix in chat, and Burning Bird Friend as we call her, just asked a good question. Creative ways to use spells, the mechanics, how they look like. It's a matter of reading the spell and talking to your DM. As an example, on our stream tonight, you're going to see Heron again, and Heron's stream last Tuesday. Mike and I sat down and created my Warlock, and my Warlock was going to be different. And what I mean by that is I wanted all my power to come from my blood. Just because of how I had to make my Warlock, and it's just the thought process. So when I talked to Mike, Mike was like, love it. In fact, it's Mike. So he's like, oh, we got to do more. And of course we did. We took it to a level, and I love where it went. When you look over a spell and you read it, it has components. There are other ways to cast spells. We play at my table, the table rules, if you have a spell focus, there's no material components. And when I talk to Mike about that, my spell focus is going to be my signet ring. That's why it was really important for me to get my signet ring back. Not that my character knows that yet, but it's there. The power was there. And the social contract pod is Mike. And he said, yes, anding is important. When you're telling a story, improv teaches us to yes, and we want to live up to that as much as possible so we can play the character. If we have to tweak our character a little bit, no big deal. To fit the yes, and we could talk about it afterwards about like, we did this, but I don't think this is it. It's fine. It's a game you're playing together. And if you play it together, you're going to have conversations together afterwards. Especially, I think our group talked a little bit after last week's stream was off because like things happened and we had to talk it out a little bit. And it's fine. It is what it is. Back to this Dissonant Whisper thing though. I love this. First off, it only has a verbal component, which is by whisper. And the idea is a song of some kind, and how you cast it. It does psychic damage, which I always love psychic damage, but like for him, it's going to be a hum. We have to remember he's not your typical bard. He's not playing. He's not singing. He does know how to play an instrument, but that's because of the society he grew up in. My bard is the journey quest bard, the author going around and writing books. We go down in our ritual casting a little bit. By the way, I hope that helped, Phoenix. If it doesn't, really talk to your DM or another veteran player, like 1-to-1. So a veteran player like myself or a DM like myself, I kind of have an idea. I have to see the spell again. Usually jogs my memory. There's so many, so don't ask me to memorize them all. And I look at that and I see what happens during that spell, and then you and I can decide what aspect of that. And even during a game, if you don't change the spell, you don't change what it does, but you're adding to it, or you can see that spell does something that's not in the spell, there's always the rule of cool, or what Mike and I refer to as rule 0, which is the DM's always right. You really are. Absolutely. She said, I think it basically comes down to you're only limited by your creativity and physics sometimes. The rule of cool is basically if it's cool, you can try it. There's going to be rolls, but that's what rule of cool is. I love when people bring up physics. As a guy with a degree that's actually a science degree, it's funny to me to hear about the physics of this realm where people create fire out of nothing and control people like my guy with their voice, or as Vicious Mockery is originally written is that you insult somebody and the insult does psychic damage. You could do the inverse. Yes, absolutely. Talk to your DM. The only limitation here would be the limitation of the DM's world. And a lot of DMs don't, but I've had these ideas where I wanted to sit down and have a very low magic world. Well, I have to make sure that, of course, my caster players are cool with that. But we are going to talk about limitations of stuff. I do love that works backwards. It's awesome. Excuse me again. Bards are ritual casters. What does this mean? I get this question a lot. It's a big question. It means you can get a ritual book where you can attempt to write down spells. There are rules on this. I love the rules, but I also love when it's not set in the rules, you just do it. But there are rules about doing higher levels, all this other stuff. You can't cast anything above your normal level unless it's a scroll, and then there's a chance of hit or miss on that. But the key here is that you sit down with your ritual book for 10 minutes, and if it has a casting ability, you can cast it. My guy's not going to have this. I'm going to talk to my DM. Mike is my hypothetical DM in this situation, and I'll be like, listen, I understand that he can, but I don't think he will, because again, I'm seeing the power is his voice, not the spells per se, and that's what we're changing it. Hey, that's me. And I look at this chart, and now I've had all my spell stuff done. You can read through all the spells. You're not going to know them unless you read through them. There is not a quick way or better way to do that. I also want you to remember that a lot of DMs do single book rules or multiple book, where they'll sit down at the beginning and be like, listen, we're using the player's handbook and Xanathar's Guide to Everything. If those are the limitations they put on it, those quick make character things that everybody's got an app for nowadays or online, it's not going to help you, because a lot of times they have a lot of homebrew or every book thing, so it's not going to break it down. I'm not saying that it's right to limit or not limit. I just want to be really clear with that. I want you to understand that the real consideration here is how much am I going to allow a plethora in the world that I want to create for my people as a DM. You don't want to say no. A lot of DMs don't want to. We learn to say yes. We have to limit things when it may hurt other players or their fun. if it's gonna do too much to the character, make it like super godly, or if we just think it's too outrageous. We want you to have fun. We want it to be funny. We love that. At one point, to give you an example, fighters in my, I can't remember if it was a fighter, but Slam, somebody gave him a wand of lightning bolt, and I want to say it was Mike again in this, that allowed me to strap the thing to my great sword, and then I would have to roll, and like if I hit a certain number, it would cast from the wand into the sword. It was this dumb thing that we set up. It was funny, it was hilarious. According to the rules, it should not have been, but we both were like, it's too funny, we got to do this. If you understood Slam better, and maybe I'll talk about him later on, you know a little bit more about it, and how funny it actually turned out to be. Yeah. It was a good time. At this time, I'm going to look. I got all my spells done. Again, I can read through every spell. I'm not going to know unless I read through them. They're not hidden. The title usually gives you a good idea of what it is. Sometimes that makes your selection a little better. But all this stemmed from an idea of a guy who has power in his voice. I don't have to worry about the College of Whispers at this point. That doesn't even come until later on. The only other thing I get at this point is my bardic inspiration. And again, is because my voice is bad bard. I'm going to just do this as another hum that everybody can hear, but specifically the person I want. So basically, as a bonus action, I can give any creature a d6. This lasts for 10 minutes in game. And again, DMs are, if it extends a little bit, they try to keep it about right, but if it extends a little bit for something good, they're going to let you keep it. And what does it do? This is one of those things. We used to say anytime you roll a d20. It's more specific. Whenever a player has to roll a d20 for an ability check, an attack roll, or a saving throw, they can use this bardic inspiration. Here's where bardic inspiration is cool. Regular inspiration, or advantage is what it's called, where you roll 2 d20s. In the rules, we have to say, I'm going to use my inspiration and roll both at the same time, or one at a time, but I have to do it this time. Bardic inspiration, I don't have to use my d6, the extra d6, until I roll my d20. I take a look at it before the DM tells me what's going to happen, before I know if the number's right or not. And then I can go, I want to use my bardic inspiration. Once I use it, it's gone. I've used it. The spell ends. But and me as a bard, I can do this as many times as a charisma modifier. So it says I could do 3. So while I'm talking about it, I'm just going to come down here and I'll make a note. And again, if you're writing on paper, that's fine. We can write it out. Bardic inspiration. I want to put what my die is for that. When I play bards, like to have the dice on a table with me, and I give somebody my d6. They can give it back when they're done. Before any of you go crazy, it's not my d6 that I normally roll. I have one set of die nobody touches but me. This one is for somebody else. And on my sheet, I'm going to just do one of these because I got 3. That way I know what I'm at. And that line represents the 3 in pencil that's written really lightly because I'm going to end up erasing that a bunch of times. If you guys see here, I went back and did our personality traits. We talked about that last time, but I took time after the stream to actually think about what I wanted to do. So to him, his personal trait is if I have nothing important to add to a conversation, I don't say anything at all. Information is a currency, and I will cash in on as much as I can. Can go both ways, but that's his ideal. His bonds, remember I took the sailor background, so I went with my crew and friends or my commitment. Nothing else is important. I took my captain is my commitment, and nothing else is important. Or my ship, I can't remember. And I altered it to feed and be what I wanted it to be. In my head, Mike being my hypothetical DM would allow me to do that. I just had to talk to him. And then on the bottom, I follow orders even if I think they're wrong. That's because in my head, he's a sailor, but he's not an experienced sailor. He's doing it on the side. Daddy helped him get a job as a sailor. He keeps to himself. The best way to do that is never get in an argument because of the voice power that he has. I see that as everybody on the crew thinks he's reliable. He never shoots back when he goes and talks. If you missed the first episode, just to give you a little background on how Oral came into be, I literally just went, I have this idea, and I'm a role player, and it's how I build my characters. I will never be one of those people that picks a rogue because picks a halfling because I'm being a rogue and I need the extra dexterity or whatever. My brain is a little different, and I know that's coming from somebody who's playing a tiefling warlock. The reason I wanted tiefling is because of how I wanted his backstory to be. And that'll come out a little bit later, maybe even a little bit tonight, depending on what happened. My character's done. At level 2, when I do that, I remember that any one of these spells that I want to switch out, I can. But because of how I pick them, I doubt I will. I'm not min-maxing. And again, I want to say that there's nothing wrong with min-maxers. It's a way of play. It's not for every table. If you notice everybody else in your group is role-playing and you're a min-maxer, either try to learn what they're doing or find a min-max table. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm a Pathfinder player. And in Pathfinder, if you don't min-max, your character's going to die. It's just how it is. I'm also going to give everybody this warning is the characters could die. It's a possibility. I don't know what to tell you. I can't make it better. I can't make it worse. You have a possibility of dying in the game. As long as the DM, and this is more for the DMs and the new players, as long as you make it an event, something memorable, that it wasn't just a loss, it wasn't something dumb, and you make like a cut scene for each person after they die with whatever happens to them in the afterlife, every death is worth it in a game. For ours, there's a little spot right here. I believe this used to be the god thing. And they say you don't have to choose a god, but I really think a god should be picked. And in honor of Mike, we're going to take Malil. I know I spelled it wrong, but I like that spelling better. And I know the symbol is a harp, but in the PDF file that they give you, if you saw that little click there, what I could do is put a picture in there. Blessed be Malil. I want you to know that it doesn't matter per se. It matters if your character dies, what that cutscene is going to look like, what happens, how it affects things. So let's not concentrate. Let's just keep it on there. Please don't be that person like, I don't want to pick a god kind of thing, or I don't believe in gods. Gods are different in the D&D universe. Most of them used to be, Buried Not Decay, hi. They used to be us, our players, right? And that's kind of what happened with Gary Gygax when the Pantheon was created, was they were mortals at one point that became gods. And that's what it is. Talk about why you should care about that cutscene even though that character's gone from the table. Okay. Yeah, not a problem. It's important because even the little bit of time, the hour and 45 minutes I put into creating this character with you guys, I put time into this guy. And in the end, too, I'm going to figure out and write down all his family, his brothers' names. It became important to me, and I need closure if he dies. That cutscene is so important because it gives closure. It also allows the DM to enter something else into the world, into that cutscene. There's so much story element to that, but closure is the big word here. If you kill a character and just move on and there's no closure, it will rot that table. It will become toxic at that table. And we want to prevent things from being toxic. And it's important not to be. Some final thoughts today is I want you to think about what I just said about the toxic. What's toxic at a table? It's about everybody playing being comfortable. It's not about everybody agreeing with you or your ways or session 0 is so important. It's where everybody sits down and you guys discuss limits on what's going to happen at your table. And we have limits that we discussed before we started streaming our games every week. You got to prevent toxicity in your table. And what I mean by that is you don't have to die in every hill. You don't have to argue about every little thing. You have to remember that everybody's different. I lead like this. If somebody gives me their pronouns, I'm going to use their pronouns. But me personally, I don't care what you call me. So my pronouns aren't that important to me. I don't want you to argue with me that I need to give you pronouns. And in the same fact, I don't need you to keep reminding me of yours. I respect you. So by respecting you, I'm going to use your pronouns. And you respect me, which is you use whatever pronouns and you don't hound me about it. And we all get along at the table. It's important. There should be a place for everybody to come. Tables aren't for certain people. They're for everybody. I had this talk a long time ago that, DnD is for everybody. I hear these stories of these gatekeepers and stuff, and we got to prevent that from happening. But we also got to prevent the opposite that I found a couple of times, and it makes me sad, which are these people pretending that they were gatekeeped, and they weren't. It makes us uncomfortable. We don't want to be. I want to be at the table with you playing along, and I'm one of those people that I love everybody, and you don't have to be like me. I don't want my life to be boring, and I'm going to keep that there. Buried Not Decay, talk about patience towards the DM when giving out cool bits. What do you call cool bits? I'll talk about the patience of DMs. A lot of people are scared to DM, and that's because there's a lot of pressure put on DMs. I am not one of those people, mostly because I've done it quite a few times for quite a few different kind of people. And only once have I ever been broken, and I almost stopped playing the game. It was so bad, but that was only once. Out of the hundreds and hundreds of people I played with at cons or DM for it, like cons or the game shop and game nights and stuff like that, there's only been one individual that pushed me that far. But new DMs do need patience towards you, and DMs in general. Sometimes when the rules lawyer tells me exactly what's supposed to happen, but the person that wants to do something cool is there, I've got to weigh that. I don't want the guy who took the time to learn all the rules to feel like he's not being heard at the table either. It's going to take me a second to make a decision, and I'm going to make a decision. I might make the wrong one, but that's fine. We move on about that, what's going on. Like flavor material, whether it be like a cool cutscene, talking to a patron or D&D. I can't see. Okay, be patient with that. Again, he's talking about changing the weather or cool cutscene like I was just talking about, or a patron or deity or an item or talking about things. Listen to the story, even if it's not your thing. But again, this is what I talked about before, which is finding the right table. Min-maxers don't care about that stuff, right? When they build characters to min-max, and again, there's nothing wrong with it. They're building the best, strongest, most powerful, hard-to-hit character that they can. They just want to get to the stuff. We have to remember as DMs that other people at the table might not want that. Or it might not be our style of play either. It's like any other relationship. People forget that the DM's a person. And that DM needs as much patience from you as you need from him or her or them. And you need as much understanding, sometimes more. Because I've made bad calls during a game and then talked to my group afterwards like, okay, well that happened, but this is how it's going to happen from now on. Just everybody needs to be patient with everybody. First and foremost, it's a game. How you play D&D is not going to change your life. There isn't like a sweepstakes for best D&D play. You get to do the cool things when you introduce and learn about the cool people. I got about 10 more minutes if there's any other questions. My oral character, I'm going to go back to and talk if I'm not seeing that, which is I'm going to try to live up to everything I have written here. I don't make characters based off of me. I make them based off of an idea. This, especially this, my ideal, information as a currency. I have to pay attention to that. Me as a person and me as a hospital administrator, information needs to be pushed out to everybody. But oral information needs to be kept unless it needs to be given. It's a currency. He's going to keep it until he can cash into it on a book or a copyright situation. My flaw, I follow orders even if I think they're wrong. That's not a doc thing. But that's an oral thing, and I have to pay attention to that. We've created a bard together in episodes 1 and 2. How do I get good at D&D is I create a bunch of characters. Even if I don't use them. Get an idea, create it, see how it works. Magic's lurking. I love magic. It's her channel tonight we'll be playing on. No matter what is happening at your table, min-maxers, with role players, with thespians, you get those. Believe me, they're there. When people come start dressing up as cosplay to their characters, I think it's wonderful. Some people don't. You have to play as a group. I'll explain it if anybody ever did choir or chorus or whatever. If you're the best singer in the world and you are in a choir with average singers, you're going to stand out really bad. And it's no longer a choir. Now it's you and a bunch of backup singers. This game is kind of like that too. And nobody wants to be a backup singer. We all want to play the game. So if you're role playing so much you realize you're talking all the time. And the rest of the table is good with that because they don't want to role play, but it helps the DM move the story and everybody's cool with it. We're going to continue doing that. If somebody comes to me and is like, listen, you're not letting me role play my character, Doc's going to be like, you're absolutely correct. I need to step back from that. I need to adjust to the people at my table and what they want to do to have fun. If my table's not fun, I will not play at it. If I don't play at it, I'm not playing the game. And we don't want that. We will not have toxic tables. We need to learn to play together. We need to learn, honestly, sometimes, I hate to say this, but it's just the truth. We need to learn to keep some of our opinions to ourselves. I don't need you to agree with me to be a friend of yours. I don't. I like my friends to be different than me. Enough where we can have intelligent conversations about stuff and we can have rhetoric about stuff. And if you don't know what rhetoric is, might be part of the issue, go look it up. Understand it's an art form. But I also don't need to walk away from a conversation thinking somebody is right and somebody is wrong. It is okay to walk away from a conversation and for me just to have a better understanding where my friend is coming from and that they have a better understanding where I'm coming from. And that's how you create a non-toxic table. And you'd be surprised on the people that you can play a game with who you wouldn't socialize any other time with, who become your friends. And you realize that everybody's a human being and deserves respect. Now, if they're being disrespectful, that's not tolerated. But we're just to remember that you don't have to die on every little hill. People are allowed to have different opinions. And we've learned that in this country for, man, I can think back 25 years of just people being different, and it's fine. I have a character I can play with now. I have spells. I even know what I'm going to do for each of these spells. I have items. I am old. It's not it. I'm 44. I will be 45 in 4 months. I is old. But I have everything to play my character. And if you guys don't have any other questions for me, next time we come together, we're going to talk about leveling up a character. There are different ways of that, so we're going to talk about the leveling up a character. And then we're going to talk about, this one's a little off, we're going to talk about how my character and another character, I want them to be linked somehow. Everybody should be connected in the party. A lot of DMs do the you meet in a tavern thing, but the real question is when you're playing, why are these characters still together? Why did they come together? Why would they be together? And we're going to talk about doing that, and I'm going to find a polar opposite character. And if you have any ideas on this, this video should be up on YouTube tonight. I would love to have, ideas of opposite of a human bard as a character. I should have started with paladin. That would have made it better. And then we'll go into like how we can have these people linked, why polar opposites would be together, and we'll have some fun next time. So leveling up and having a party that gets along. Does anybody else have any other questions? I hate to turn this off because I feel like the minute I hit it, the lag between me talking and you seeing is going to come about, and then boom, there's a question. I typically play on the build on why they are together as a DM. I love that, and everybody should. I don't see a reason why you wouldn't. Because why are you together? Mike can tell you some of my friends and I, because we all play, and Mike played at some of my tables with us. Me and my buddy Keith made characters that were brothers, and we were polar opposite twin brothers. It was fun until I had a little too much to drink, and we were trying to what were we doing? Oh, we were trying to keep an accent, and I'm okay with accents until I've been drinking, and then I can't keep them together. But that was fun. But yeah, little things you got to keep in mind. The last thing I'm going to say is something I've said a bunch of times, but I want to make sure I say it at least 3 times. There's no reason to make this game toxic. Please do not make this game toxic. And as much as I'm saying that to the people that do purposely have a toxic problem, if you are a warrior too hard against them, you also become part of the toxic problem. Don't do that. Love everybody. Keep it nerdy and live your dreams. I'll see y'all tonight.